Alright guys, here we go. This is week 3, lesson 3. What we started out with our first two lessons for this week was we graphed parabolas that went up or down. We graphed parabolas that went left or right. Now we're going to look at writing the equation for those different types of parabolas. Now, the first thing that we want to do is be able to relate our information back to how our graphs were. So what I recommend you do is when we look at this, right, they're telling us some information. The focus is 2, 3. The directrix is x equals -4. What we should start out by doing is putting that on a graph, right? So let's draw ourselves a little graph here. We don't have to be accurate. We're not graphing it. We're writing the equation. Our focus, let me pull a different color here, is 2, 3. That's your focus. Your directrix is x equals -4. So x equals -4 is 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left. Since it is x equals, that means we're drawing our directrix as this vertical line right here. That's x equals -4. From that right there, we find out a lot about our parabola. Right? What we know is the vertex is right in between the focus and I'm going to call it the directrix, right? Well, it's called the directrix. I'm just trying to abbreviate it there. So we just have to find out what's exactly in between this focus here and the directrix right here. The easiest way is just split it in half, right? We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces to get from the focus to the directrix. Cut that in half. We just need to go 3. So let's go 1, 2, 3 spaces right there. Sorry. That point is our vertex, and that's key, right? The vertex is the way we can write our equation. So I'm going to drop down here and write what our vertex is as a coordinate point. We look at it, it's left 1, up 1, 2, 3. So -1, 3 is our vertex, which is going to be very helpful to us. The next thing that'll be helpful is just a sketch, right? Do we know which way this parabola opens? First thing is, our directrix is x equals, so it's either right or left. The second thing is, that focus is always inside of our parabola like that. So that means that this opens up to the right, right? Since it is opening to the right or to the left, that means our equation has to be an x equals equation, right? Because it's to the right or left. The second step is we need to add the vertex into our equation. The way we're going to add the vertex into our equation is by setting up this second piece, right? If we started with x equals, then our parentheses here has to have our y equals, or whatever our y value is, right? We can't have the same variable twice. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at that y coordinate for our vertex. It's a +3. So we just go here and we put +3. No, right? Because we're going in parentheses, we have to think opposite there. So instead of it being +3, whoops, we're going to change that to be -3 because we have to think opposite. Now we have added that +3 into our equation, which means to make this -1 appear in our equation, we just go to the end and we put -1. Again, we do not do opposite for that piece on the end. That stays the same. We have just added the vertex into our equation. The last thing we have to do here is add our fraction that sits out in front, right? We need to put this fraction that sits in front. Now, the easiest way we can do that is just think of this fraction is always related to this 1/4c. What we need to do is find out what c is. Again, if you don't remember, c is the distance from the vertex to the focus, as we can see up here. That distance is 3. So what we need to do is just go back to our equation and plug in 3 for c. So in our denominator here, we're going to have 4 times 3, because that's what c is. That gives us a 12, meaning for our equation, we're going to have x equals 1 over 12 y minus 3 squared minus 1. That's the equation for a parabola that has focus of 2, 3 and a directrix of x equals negative 4. Now, we're going to go through the next couple of examples. We'll go a little bit quicker. We'll be using the same ideas though. Focus is negative 1, 4. Again, slap that on our graph. Negative 1, 4 is right here. That's our focus. Our directrix in this case is y equals, let me pull this color, negative 2. Since it's y equals, now our directrix is this horizontal line. Y equals negative 2. The first thing that I want to look at is it's y equals, which means our equation has to be y equals. No matter what, our directrix always lines up with how our equation looks. The second piece, we need to find the vertex, right? The vertex, again, splits this focus and directrix in half. There's what? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, we're going this distance of 3. It just happens to be that way. So let's go 1, 2, 3 from the focus. That right there splits it in half perfectly. That's our vertex. So we can go down here and say what our vertex is. That's negative 1, positive 1. And we can write our equation. Now, again, since we start out with y equals, in our parentheses over here we use the other variable, so we're going to have an x plus or minus something squared. Now we're dealing with our x values. So we look at our x value first. It's minus 1, so we just go over here, we plot the minus 1. But again, we do the opposite, so instead that becomes a plus 1. Since we added the x value in to our equation, we need to put this y value, it's a positive 1, stays on the end, it's not opposite. And again, to finish off this example here, we need to find our fraction that sits out in front, which is our 1 over 4c. We figure out that distance of c, again it ends up being 3. I apologize for that. So we're going to go 4 times 3, that's 12 again. And our final answer, y equals 1 over 12 x plus 1 squared plus 1. Now it's a positive 1 over 12 because if we did a sketch of this parabola, it opens up. If instead it was flipped like this and it opened down, then we would just go into our equation at the end, make it negative. But it opens up, so we don't have to worry about doing that. The last example we're going to look at here, this one's a little bit different. It's more unique on how you have to do it, but same process. Graph the focus, graph the directrix. We can find the vertex. Our focus is at 0, negative 4. Our directrix is at 4 for our y, so that's up here at y equals 4. And we want to find our vertex. Now I've made this one a little bit easier, but sometimes when I make things easier, it looks a little more complicated. We have to figure out what point is right in between them. This is a total distance of 8 here. The point that splits it in half perfectly is right there. That's at 0, 0, right? That's 4 away from both the focus and the directrix. So our vertex ends up being 0, 0. And from that, again, we can write our equations here. The first thing that I want to point out is since our directrix is y equals 4, again, since it's y equals, our equation starts as y equals, which then allows us to set up our second parentheses. We start with the y's, that means we have to have an x plus or minus something here. The nice thing, since our vertex is 0, 0, that means all we have to do is something like that, plus 0 squared plus 0. We're not adding anything to our vertex or to our vertex there because it's at 0, 0. So that works out very nice for us. Now, we don't have to actually write it like that. We can have y equals just x squared. We don't have to put the plus 0 plus 0. If you want to, that's fine. I'll accept that. The last thing we have to do here, again, is figure out what is that fraction sitting out in front. Let me pull this color. That's that 1 over 4c that we need to deal with. So again, we find out what that value of c is. That's the vertex to the focus. In this case, that's 1, 2, 3. That's a distance of 4. So we're just going to take 4 and plug it in for c. So we're doing 4 times 4, which is 16. And our equation can be 1 over 16 x plus 0 squared plus 0 if you choose, or y equals 1 over 16 x squared. Now, we're not done because we have to check this. This parabola would open down, meaning it's a negative graph. So what we have to be sure to add to our equation here is, instead of it just being a positive 1 over 16, that's going to become a negative 1 over 16. That would be the last way to finish that out. That's the graph of that's the equation that matches up with a focus of 0, -4, and a directrix of y equals 4. I've done a few examples there. Again, you guys will take some time to do some practice. This is the last lesson for the week. If you have questions, again, feel free to reach out to me. I can help you out. And make sure you try that quiz and try to get a 70% on it. You can take it as many times as you want there. Have a good day.